Good morning, dear students, to your English class. Today we will learn a biography of a great mathematician of India. We will be doing chapter 4.4 Ramanujan. Now look at the background pictures over here. These are the great mathematicians Hemchandra, Brahmagupta, Bhaskara. These are of the ancient times, and then of the modern times we have Shakuntala Devi, who is also called the human computer. She is the most famous mathematician. Similarly, in the background pic over here, you can see a photo of S. Ramanujan, that is Srinivasa Ramanujan. He was one of the greatest mathematical geniuses who lived between 1887 to 1920. Over here you can notice there are some people in quotes. These are the colleagues and professors at the University of Cambridge in England in 1916. In the center we have the young Srinivasa Ramanujan, who graduated and got the fellowship in England. In this lesson you will learn very interesting facts about his life. Okay, so let's go in and learn about him. Firstly, let us do an activity. This activity is called Apple Maths. This is a fun activity for you. Look at this picture over here. You can see a lot of numbers and lot of additions you will have to do. So I want you to calculate the numbers and find out how many totals of 8, 10, 16 are there in the Apple Maths mix. And thirdly, you have to color the odd numbers green and the even numbers red. Now how to do it? See, look here. For example, 8 plus 2 is equal to 10. 6 plus 2 is equal to 8. 7 plus 9 is equal to 16, right? Now like this I want to calculate all these figures and find out how many 8s are there, how many 10s are there, and how many 16. Only find out this, how many 8s, 10s and 16, and write in the comment section below. Let me see. Now let's go ahead. Now we will learn about Ramanujan, the great mathematician. This is a short clip which will give you a overall information about him.
The great Indian mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan, a genius who loved numbers, was born on 22nd December 1887 and died on 26th April 1920. Srinivasa Ramanujan, one of the greatest mathematicians of all times, made extraordinary contributions to mathematical analysis and numbers. He demonstrated unusual mathematical skills at school, winning accolades and awards. By the age of 17, Ramanujan has conducted his own mathematical research on Bernoulli numbers and Euler-Mascheroni constant. Government of India has declared that Ramanujan's birthday should be celebrated every year as National Mathematics Day, and the year 2012 is observed as National Mathematical Year. His contribution in the field of mathematics has been immense and will be remembered forever.
So students, you have done an activity, right, about maths, and then you have learnt a little bit about Ramanujan. Now let's go into the explanation of the lesson. It's a very interesting explanation, lots of pictures and lots of good information knowledge, values are there in this lesson. And let's learn about him.
We will learn about a little bit of excerpts from his life. We will take a little bit of insight into his life. Okay, now you know that in these format, that is in the video format, I cannot read from the textbook and explain to you. So I would advise that you keep your textbook in front of you. So you please open your English textbooks and come to page number 91, where we have this lesson, Ramanujan. Now, through the lesson, through this video, I will try to show you how the life of this person, Ramanujan, was and what was special about him. So, when you look at this picture, you must be familiar with it. You must have seen this picture in many places. So, he is a person who's not an actor, who's not a singer, okay? He is a person who's associated with the field of science and technology. So he was a very, very famous mathematician. Now, when we talk about famous mathematicians in India, let us look at some of the very famous mathematicians who have contributed a lot, not only to the Indian scenario of maths, but also they are considered to be geniuses in maths on the international level also. So you have Hemchandra here, and certain pictures, children, they are from the very olden times when there were no cameras. So these are all sketches. Okay, so you have Hemchandra, Brahmagupta, Shakuntala Devi. Of course, I have a picture to show you here. You must have seen the movie also based on the life of Shakuntala Devi. And then you have Bhaskara. You must have all heard about this very, very famous mathematician called Aryabhatta. Alright, then we have Satyendranath Bose. Then we have P.C. Mahalanobis. And finally, we will talk about Srinivasa Ramanujan also, who is a main hero of our lesson for today, and C.R. Rao. So all these people, they have transformed the way we know mathematics. And if you look at this image, or if you look at the screen here, you will see that many of them, they have never had a formal education. That is, they have never gone and done BSc in mathematics or MSc in mathematics. So most of them, we can say, were blessed, or they were geniuses naturally as far as their knowledge of mathematics is concerned. Okay, so this lesson also is about one such genius called Srinivasa Ramanujan. Now, Srinivasa Ramanujan, he is a famous Indian mathematician, as we have been discussing now for the past few minutes. And you should also remember that he also had no formal training in mathematics. Okay, he used to work as a clerk, and he was not someone who was very celebrated or who was very acknowledged since when he was a student, you can say. He was a very ordinary person like you and me. So let us get to know a little bit more about this person, Srinivasa Ramanujan. So he was born on the 22nd of December 1887 in a place called as Erode, which is in the state of Tamil Nadu. And if you look at the time he died on 26th of April 1920 in a place called Kumbakonam, also in Tamil Nadu. He died very young, children. See, he was born in 1887 and he passed away in 1920. So he did not live for a long time. Now he was awarded the Fellow of the Royal Society, that is FRS. He was awarded with this title. Okay, now we will understand what FRS also means in the later part of the video. He had some kind of schooling in India, that is when he lived as a kid in Tamil Nadu in Erode. He had some kind of schooling, but then he went on to go and join Cambridge University, that is a Trinity College which comes under Cambridge University, and there he was awarded the Fellow of the Royal Society. His parents were Komalatamal and Srinivasa Aiyangar. Okay, so this is some basic information about Srinivasa Ramanujan. Now let us go a little bit deeper into his life and try and understand what was so special about this person. So see, at the age of 13, now at the age of 13, children are your age children who are in the 7th standard and 8th standard. and you are trying to learn maths, isn't it? Your maths teacher tries to teach you maths and you're trying to learn theories in maths. Many of us, including me, find that maths is a little difficult to understand. It is a kind of a subject which we are scared of. Okay, but see, at the tender age of 13, he has completely mastered a book on advanced trigonometry. So now trigonometry, again, when you go to a little higher class, that is when you go to the 9th standard, 10th standard, you will be learning about certain principles of trigonometry, which is for a person who doesn't like maths, or who's not very much interested in maths, or who doesn't have too much of a, you can say, a talent in maths. Trigonometry is very difficult. Okay, but he had completely mastered a book on advanced trigonometry when he was 13 years old, that is around your age. By that time, he had also discovered sophisticated theorems on his own. See, now at this age, in the 8th standard, we are trying to learn simple theorems, but he had discovered sophisticated theorems on his own. That means it was not because of something which a teacher had taught him, or it was not because of something which a textbook had taught him that he became this kind of a master in mathematics. He was blessed by nature. Okay, so that is what we can conclude after we read this, because at 13 nobody can teach you to master an entire book which is written on trigonometry based on mathematics. Alright, now if you look at Ramanuja the mathematician, let us try and understand, and let us remember that he had no formal training in mathematics. Now what is the meaning of formal training? Now after your 10th standard, children, you are allowed to take science or commerce or arts. So many of us who are interested in maths, we go in for science, where we take maths as our main subject. So you pass out with a BSc in mathematics, and if you are very interested in continuing further, then you do your MSc in mathematics. Some people even do their PhD in mathematics, that is, they do their doctorate degree in mathematics. But the person we are learning about here in this lesson, Ramanuja, he had no formal training in mathematics. Okay, now when we talk about formal training, now see, we have many singers who have gone to music schools and who have learnt music. They have learned the ragas, they have learnt various other things also. But there are some people who sing so beautifully, but they have no training. Nobody has trained them how to sing. Nobody has taught them what the meaning of raga is, what the meaning of tal is, what the meaning of lay is. Okay, so that is called as no formal training. So Ramanuja also had no formal training in mathematics, and he has made extraordinary contributions to many mathematical analysis, number theory, infinite series, continued fractions, etc. These are all concepts in mathematics. And like we just discussed, he became an expert in trigonometry at the age of 12. He discovered theorems also of his own, and he is a fellow of the Royal Society and Trinity College, Cambridge. Alright, so this is about Ramanuja the mathematician. Now, the Indian government has taken great efforts to recognize the work of Srinivasa Ramanujan, and so his birthday, that is December 22nd, is celebrated as the National Mathematics Day in recognition or in honor of this great mathematician that India has had. Okay, so this is about the personal information of Srinivasa Ramanujan. Now let us go on and let us talk about his professional life. So the person that you see here, the picture that you see here, is that of G.H. Hardy, Godfrey Hardald Hardy. Now this person, he was a very, very famous English mathematician. Okay, he was the person who became Ramanujan's mentor, friend and guide. And how did this person, Ramanujan from Tamil Nadu in India, reach this person, G.H. Hardy, in England? So it happened by way of a letter. So this was a letter which Ramanujan wrote to Hardy. And in that letter, in the year 1913, Hardy was having tea just like that casually in the morning when he found that there was a big envelope which had come in from India. He saw a lot of Indian stamps on it. He opened it and he was very bored and he did not want to read all this. He saw a lot of numbers and he saw formulae and he saw so many different symbols, etc. on it, and he just looked at it without any interest because there were many people who used to send such things to Hardy. Now, after some time, he thought that since these papers have come to me anyways, let me read it. When he started reading it, that is a time when he discovered that whatever he is reading is the work of either a fraud or a genius, because the theorems, the concepts which were explained by this person Ramanujan, who was an unknown person at that time, were something which was very, very surprising to even this very, very famous mathematician. Okay, and that is the time he took notice and he showed his papers. He showed all these work or the papers or the letter that he had sent to many people, to many other mathematicians, and then they discussed and they knew for certain that the person who has written all this is a man who's a real genius. Okay, and that is when Hardy decided that Ramanujan should be mentored, he should be guided, he should be given more, you can say, encouragement to continue with this kind of work. And that is how Hardy went into action, and he thought that Ramanujan must be brought to England. Okay, so this is how the journey of a very simple, you can say, clerk like Ramanujan started from a small place in Tamil Nadu, India, and he finally ended up in Trinity College, that is University of Cambridge in England. So now, as I told you, in 1913, Ramanujan, who was just a 23-year-old shipping clerk from Madras, wrote to Hardy. And he not only wrote to Hardy, but he also wrote to many other experts at Cambridge. But unfortunately, none of them, except Hardy, had the, you can say, interest to open up the papers, read them, and seriously try to understand what he wanted to say. And he claimed, among other things, to have devised a formula that calculated the number of primes up to 100 million with no error. So we know some prime numbers, okay, from 1 to 100, max up to 200. People who are very interested in maths might say prime numbers up to 10,000 perhaps. But here Srinivasa Ramanujan claimed that he has a formula which can calculate the number of prime numbers up to 100 million with no errors, that is perfectly. The self-taught and obsessive Ramanujan had managed to prove all of Raymond's result. Now, who is Raymond? Raymond is George Frederick Bernard Raymond, who was a French mathematician. So he had considered Raymond's work as one kind of reference, and he proved that whatever Raymond had said, Raymond had just given some theories without any proof. But here he proved that Raymond's work was really perfect. And he had no knowledge of the developments in the Western world. He had no formal knowledge in mathematics, or he had no formal training in mathematics, as we had discussed previously. He claimed that most of these ideas had come to him in his dreams. So can you imagine a person sleeping at night and dreaming of mathematical theories and mathematical formulae? We also tend to dream many a times, but then in the morning, most of the times, generally, we forget what we have dreamt about in the night. We just have vague images of the dreams that we have had in the night. But this person here, he could remember each and every formula, each and every theorem that he saw in his dream. No wonder we call him as a genius. Okay, so all these things he had written to Hardy. And then you will see that Hardy tried his best to fill the gaps in Ramanujan's education. Ramanujan had no formal training, just like I told you. So Hardy tried to fill in the gaps in Ramanujan's education, and he also mentored him. Because many a times when you propound a theorem, when you place a theorem in front of people, you have to also prove it. Okay, so Hardy was the person who helped Ramanujan to prove many of his theorems formally, in a particular manner, in a proper way. Hardy helped Ramanujan to do all this without hindering his inspiration. Okay, this is also very important. Hardy in no way interfered with Ramanujan's thinking or with his ideas or with his theories. He never interfered, he never hindered, he only supported him and he moved him forward. Alright, so this was about Hardy's association with Ramanujan and Hardy's role in Ramanujan's life. That is why we say he was not only a mentor, but he was also a guide and a friend to Ramanujan. Now, Hardy was the only one to recognize Ramanujan's genius, and he brought him to Cambridge University. And he was his friend and mentor there for many years. And you will see that the two of them collaborated on many mathematical problems. They tried to solve many mathematical problems together. So here in the picture, you will see the campus or the building of the University of Cambridge in England. It is estimated that Ramanujan conjectured or proved over 3000 theorems, identities and equations. 3000 is a big number. Alright, he has, and it is estimated, it could be more than 3000, it could be less than 3000, but around 3000 we say. He proved so many theorems, he proved so many identities and so many equations. These are all mathematical terms. Theorem is a mathematical term. Identities, you have a lesson, identities also in your maths textbook, and many equations. So this is the kind of contribution that Ramanujan made to the field of mathematics. And then in recognition for this, he was awarded the Fellowship of the Royal Society. Now, we have been talking about this Fellowship for the Royal Society right from the beginning of the video. So what is it? It is an award which is granted by the judges of the Royal Society of London to individuals who have made a substantial contribution to the improvement of natural knowledge, including mathematics, engineering, science and medical science. So you must have heard about the Nobel Prize. Okay, so this is also somewhat related to that, or somewhat kind of similar thing, where a Nobel Prize also recognizes and applauds the work of people. In the same way, the Fellowship of the Royal Society is also a kind of an award which is given to people who have made great contributions in the field of mathematics, engineering, science or medical science. Okay, and here is a logo of the Royal Society. So here you can see that on the 28th of February 1918, Ramanujan, who was just 31 years old, he became the youngest fellow in the history of the Royal Society. So here you can see the arrow. See, here he stands in the center of everyone else. And he is lauded as the youngest person to have become a member of the Royal Society. So that is how his life progressed, and he went to great heights. But unfortunately, though he was very, very famous, he eventually got frustrated and he went into depression and he became very sick, and he also attempted suicide at one time. So you cannot say these people who are great geniuses, their mind is much more advanced than our minds. Okay, we are satisfied with small things and we are sometimes happy with the kind of life we have. But these people who might be geniuses, they attempt at seeking more and more. They want to discover more and more things. So maybe in the process, when they are not successful, they get depressed and they become mentally sick. So after a brief period in a sanatorium, sanatorium was a kind of a hospital or a care center, he came back to India and he died at the age of 32. That is in the year 1920. He was born, we saw, in 1887, and in 1920 he died when he was just 32 years of age. So just imagine if he had lived longer, that is if he had lived to maybe 60 or 65, how much more he would have contributed to the field of mathematics. But tragically, unfortunately, that did not happen. Okay, you will see that the Indian government has celebrated Srinivasa Ramanujan by issuing postal stamps also in his name. Alright, see here you can see one postal stamp. See here there is one more. Alright, so this is how we honored this great mathematician which India proudly and fortunately had. Alright, we also had some movies which were made celebrating the life of Ramanujan, that is the man who knew infinity. He could count, or he could give you prime numbers in millions. So it was said that he was the man who knew infinity. So there were movies which were made on the life of Ramanujan. So this is the English movie. We also have a Tamil movie which was made in the name of, or based on the life of Srinivasa Ramanujan. Okay, and the movie was called Ramanujan. And see, these are all scenes from the movie where this is Ramanujan and this is Hardy, where they are spending time together on the campus in Cambridge University. So this particular movie also, if you are able to watch, you will be able to get a good insight into the life of Srinivasa Ramanujan. Now children, that was all as far as the story of Ramanujan goes. Now let us look at a few things from the textbook as far as meanings go and as far as grammar goes. Now in this particular lesson children, there is a lot of grammar that you have to learn. Okay, in the warming up exercise itself, we have an exercise based on sentences, types of sentences, simple, complex and compound. But I will be taking it separately after we finish all the exercises related to the story or related to the lesson. We will do these exercises based on grammar. So that will maybe come up in the next video which I will do with you. Okay, then we also have an exercise here which is based on active voice and passive voice. So that will also require one complete video to do with you. Then you have an exercise where we are supposed to talk about sentences, types of sentences, that is simple, complex and compound. So there may be a few more videos also which will come out in relation to this lesson. Okay, but for now let us look at these easy exercises which are part of the lesson. So let us look at the meanings first. So what is the meaning of a manuscript? Now a manuscript means nothing but a book. Okay, but a manuscript is a handwritten book or a handwritten document. Now handwritten documents, we say we have many handwritten documents. We have our notebooks, okay, which are full of our handwriting. But then if it is something of great value to the nation or something of great value to the subject that you are talking about, then that becomes a manuscript. In the olden times, when printing was not available, when the technology where things could not be printed, then many things were handwritten and they were all called as manuscripts. Okay, then you have contrivances. Now this is a different or difficult word for a simple thing called appliances. Okay, so what are contrivances? Contrivances are nothing but appliances or gadgets. Now this is a simple picture of some kitchen gadgets for you. Kitchen contrivances. So you have a toaster, you have a mixer, you have a food processor, a simple rice cooker, and then you also have a toaster, okay, a sandwich maker. So these are all the simple contrivances, the simple appliances or gadgets. And then you have a phrase called crossing the water. Now what is the meaning of crossing the water? Crossing the water in the olden times meant traveling across the sea or the ocean. So traveling across sea or the ocean, nowadays it is also called as foreign travel, or it is called as overseas travel. Okay, so in the olden times, why was it called as crossing the water? Because remember, in the olden times, traveling by water or crossing the sea was the only way in which you can go to a foreign country if there is an ocean between you all. Okay, there was no way you could take a flight or you could sit in a plane and go to another country. So you had to either go by road or you had to cross the sea to reach the other nation. That is why it was called as crossing the water. Crossing the water simply means overseas travel or foreign travel in today's modern time. Then you have one more word which means conveyance. This is very related to the word which we have seen or the phrase we have seen previously. Conveyance means a vehicle. So see, this is an old time British car. So these kind of cars you can find in the olden times, that is in the times when Ramanujan lived. Okay, So a conveyance means nothing but a vehicle. It could be a car, it could be a bus. They also had trams in those olden times. Okay, trams are running even now. If you go to Kolkata, you will be able to experience what trams are. So that is the meaning of conveyance. So these were some meanings, children, from your textbook. Now let us look at some sentence formations. So use the following words or phrases to make sentences of your own. Now if you open your textbook and if you come to the English workshop part on page number 95, you will see that there are 8 phrases or words which are given and you have to form sentences. I will give you sentences for 4 of them, and the remaining you can try and find on your own. You can make use of your mobiles, you can open your dictionary and you can find these sentences. So that is a small assignment to you in this particular video. So enthusiasm. So what is a kind of sentence that you can make with enthusiasm? What is the meaning of enthusiasm? Enthusiasm means a lot of positive energy, a lot of, you can say, interest that you have in doing something. Okay, so let's try and frame a sentence with enthusiasm. So you have, the student had an enthusiasm for science. So enthusiasm means interest in learning science, liking for science. It could be anything. Okay, so enthusiasm. Then you have one more word, one more sentence, phrase, to lope off. So here in the book, in the textbook, if you read the story, you will see that Hardy loped off to play tennis. Okay, so here loping off means walking casually. So let us frame a sentence with to lope off. So the dog loped easily across the streets. So the dog was very familiar maybe with that part of the street. So he loped easily, means he casually and without any worry, without any tension, he crossed the streets. Then you have the next one, fraud. So what is the meaning of a fraud? A fraud means someone who is not genuine, someone who doesn't have good intentions. A fraud can also be something which is done, an act which is done with bad intentions. Okay, so here the fraud means, I've taken it as in the form of a verb. Okay, so fraud means the fraud was detected by the police on time. So someone had committed a fraud and the police had detected it on time. On time means before the damage could be done. And then the last one which I will do for you is clarity. Clarity of course means something which is clear. Okay, so what sentence with clarity will you form here? See, I have written, there needs to be absolute clarity about the definition of an emergency. So when you're saying it is an emergency, it could be a medical emergency, it could be a political emergency, a national emergency, any kind of emergency. So you should have clarity about emergency. When I'm saying it's an emergency, I should be clear what kind of emergency it is.